Welcome to First Mile's Climate Heroes. I'm your host, Bruce Bratley, founder of recycling company First Mile. On this show, we meet and learn from the climate heroes who are building solutions right now to tackle climate change. The climate impact of fashion is significant and well known, but our guest today is tackling this with a premium, environment-first outdoor clothing brand who is making exceptional products in a more responsible and transparent way. The brand is called Finisterre, and we're joined today by its founder, Tom Kay. Finisterre is a B Corp and highly respected outdoor clothing brand, and being British, all garments are designed to keep you dry and warm in the worst of our weather. Tom, it's a huge pleasure to welcome you and Finisterre to First Mile's Climate Heroes.
Great. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So, Tom, fast fashion, crazy what's going on in that world, and you're not in that place at all. You're very much around a premium fashion brand and keeping things for a long time. But how are you addressing the environmental problem of fashion?
Well, big question to start with. So I guess I started Finisterre back in 2003, and it was really born from my love of the sea and surfing and living in this country. And the idea was behind the brand to make product that you needed in the best product possible, in a more sustainable way, and also use the brand to really drive change in the industry as we saw it. So there's two things to address that question. One is what we're making, how we're making it. It's always been about products enduring, built for purpose, built to last, functional, as well as being aesthetically pleasing as well. And the other one is using the brand as a voice in the industry around ocean activism, around better product manufacturing, around better use of fabrics, and we sort of B Corp, which is a sort of framework around which we grow the business.
And your motto is the ocean's future is our future. And are you using, as you sort of intimated there, that you're sort of trying to convey your love of the ocean through the brand as well, but also are you using the brand as a way of campaigning to protect the seas?
Yeah, so I think, it's always been bigger than just a business. So hopefully as a business, we get better and better. We do all the time as individuals in the business, as teams and as a brand. But there's many things in the world a lot bigger than Finisterre, and one of them is the health of the oceans. And being a brand in Cornwall, the cliffs here, we're in the sea a lot. We have a very close relationship with the sea, and I guess when I started the brand, I wanted to kind of replicate that connection to the sea that I had always felt. And if we could do that with a business, and the kind of belief is that if you connect someone with something, you love it, and if you love it, you protect it, and it kind of goes around like that. So that's kind of what we do. So yeah, we have our C7 Ocean Activist Program, which is helping our community many of them start their activist journey about how they can stand up for the sea. And the sea needs it more than ever if it's going to play its role in the health of the planet.
You are based in Cornwall. The entire business is based in Cornwall now.
Yeah, we are 140 odd people, and I'm calling you here from the cliff top in St Agnes, about on the side of an old tin mine above the surf, which is quite good today. It's a lovely day. I might try and get in later. And there's probably about 70 people on site here. And then we've got 10 stores around the country, which are kind of a really important place where the brand is brought to life, and people can meet our staff and customers and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's the setup of the business.
And have you always been connected to the sea, in and out of the sea, a surfer, or is that something that you came to in later life?
Yeah, I guess it's something I was lucky. My mum and dad wanted to bring my sister and I up with the love of the sea, and it's something they wanted to kind of pass on to us, which is amazing, and I'm passing that on to my kids. So yeah, it was in and around boats, windsurfing, sailing, whatever. And then when I was sort of 15, 16, 17, I kind of found surfing, and it was sort of a formative part of my life. So many people find, team sports, art, music, whatever it is. But surfing was a thing that really kind of resonated with me, and really kind of went for and lived led that life of a surfer in this climate, in this country.
And do you see that sort of lifetime of being in the sea and surfing in the sea? Is it getting worse? Is it getting better? Are we flatlining? What are you seeing when you're out there?
Yeah, and I think when you go in to see what I suppose what it gives me is that every time you go in, it's a bit different, and you never some you just go in for a swim or go in it, and sometimes you go in it's stormy and it's really wild, and you get energy off it in many different ways, or you see a bit of wildlife or whatever. So, but in terms of the plastic, everyone knows the plastic on the beach. And the worrying thing is actually the plastic you can't see in all amongst the tiny grains of sand. So it's definitely as the world gets busier, it's getting worse. We had some horrendous problems last summer with sewage. I'm sure many listeners are aware of the storm overflow problem we've had. A situation that needs resolving by the water companies. It should have resolved like 20 or 30 years ago, which means that we get raw sewage still can end up on the beach, which is just ridiculous. That just shouldn't be happening. So it's not great. It's not great, to be totally honest with you. And it's at a time when you expect the sea to really play its role in as a sort of thermostat of the planet.
Does C7, your campaigning sort of arm of the business, does that have specific campaigns or goals, sewerage, plastic, that sort of thing, or is it just generally trying to get people to love and understand the sea more?
Yeah, that's a good question. We launched it when G7 was on down here, and when they had G7 in St Ives, and there was the FBI everywhere, aircraft carriers off the coast and stuff. And at that time, we thought, we should be doing some of our own things. So we discussed. At the time we launched it, discussed the 7 key issues facing the oceans today, and so that was pollution, fishing, climate change. Many. There's 7 key areas we focused on. And I think what we're probably doing now is every year we're going to be focusing on one of those things to really bring them to life and use the brand as a voice to sort of show all of these amazing scientists and conservationists and activists and communicators that are really shedding light on this problem. If we can use the brand to help them do that, that's kind of our role.
And what's this year's 2023? Which of the 7 are you campaigning on this year?
It's likely to be. It's still to be. I mean, we're still kind of putting the kind of final crossed and dots. Sorry, that's it on the sort of final campaign. But it's likely to be around offshore drilling around the UK and also bottom trawling, which is really destructive. Basically, ploughing up the seabeds, killing everything in literally like the seabed that used to be seagrass, which is an amazing carbon sink, and also a place to sort of nurseries for many small marine animals and fish. Just like a desert. So that's something that we, and also marine protected areas as well. There are marine protected areas around the UK, but they're not really enforced. So the whole thing with the ocean is that if you leave it alone, the ability for it to recover heal is phenomenal. So that's kind of what you've got to do.
You have a very impressive impact report talking about how you produce the product, and you have these 3 pillars of commitment, which is around people, product, and planet. Could you give us an overview of how those 3 work, how they interact, and if there's any sort of priority around those?
Yes, so I mean, I founded the brand in 2003, and it was really about, as well as making really great product, it was also using the brand to drive change. So at the very first ever website we had, a 3-page website, early days e-com, literally, getting a housemate's off the phone to get on the internet. We had our commitments down. That was committed to products, to environment, and people. And product is always all about making product, circularity, making product last a long time. That's the best product. When it's in the hand of your customers, you're helping them to repair it, to fix it, for it to last a long time, and then hopefully at the end of it, you can collect it back and you can recycle it or repurpose it. So that's the product. The environment's about mitigating our impact to business, and that could be carbon mapping, offsetting. We know a lot of our materials are quite carbon intensive, so how do you go fixing that? And people is really about inspiring our communities to drive change and become activists, and kind of use the platform of the brand to help that bring that to life.
And is there a priority in any of those, or is it sort of you try and divide your time equally between all 3 of them? I guess it probably...
Well, no, you can't really have a priority. I mean, there's certain elements of that framework that are more applicable to certain areas of the business. So C7 is all about people and activism and inspiring change, but it's got the same, it's a tool that we can use to achieve the same result. Product is, that's a better quality product made in a better way that's going to last longer. That's also going to have positive results. They're all moving towards a positive impact business in different ways. So there's certain times that some are more prevalent, more visible than others, and they all sort of jostle around really.
I mean, it is very impressive. I mean, a couple of examples that I've seen where there's quite a few businesses now that are trying to shoehorn themselves, or brands shoehorn themselves into this environmental perspective from their product. But, you're actually doing it, repair, return at the end of the life. You work with reskinned on that. And even the raw products, and the story around Ulex and wetsuits is super interesting. If you can share that with us.
Yeah. So I mean, wetsuits, as a brand that is rooted around getting the sea and cold water surf. The irony is one of the most beautiful things you can do, in my opinion, is to get in the sea. But in this climate and many others, you have to wear a wetsuit to get in the water if you want to stay in for any length of time. And wetsuits are actually one of the worst products you can make by a long way. It's the toxicity around the production, their manufacturer, both in terms of the chemicals used, the way, the process, and also there's no end-of-life solution. So how do you use the brand like Finisterre to really kind of address that and, reconcile that need to go in the sea with a better product? So for over 3 years now, you've been working with a company called Ulex. That's an amazing, originally a biomedical company, but then they start making wetsuit neoprene, not wetsuit, biorubber, and it's made from tree rubber, so it's a natural alternative to neoprene, so biorubber, and it uses I think it's 10 times less water, 80% less CO2 from sustainably occurring natural sources. And so if you can use that in a product, which we do, all our wetsuits are Ulex, and the performance is better, it's warmer than traditional neoprene, and it doesn't have all the problems associated with that. That's what we do. But it's definitely a trade-off, because we have to commit to margin to do that. It's not kind of a straight line decision, but we believe that it's the right thing to do, and that's what we're doing.
And presumably there's more and more new products with a lower carbon footprint coming to the market all the time. But I imagine as a small business, it's quite challenging working out what's actually good for the environment, what's real, and whether you can, in fact, integrate it into the supply chain. It's obviously a massive industry with very long supply chains.
Yeah, I mean, it's and if you think about the sort of decisions we've made in the 20 years we've been around, there's facts change all the time, especially in the last 4 or 5 years. The amount of recycle this, synthetic that, bio that. So the compliance and the kind of interrogation of those claims is something we're working really hard to kind of making sure they are really credible and can be validated from a business and environmental point of view.
First Mile is the UK's leading waste management service. We help over 30,000 businesses reduce their carbon impact with our award-winning range of recycling solutions. Go to our website, which is thefirstmile.co.uk, to get started today. If you're enjoying this episode, don't forget to subscribe. We have brand new episodes every Wednesday. How on earth do you scale a sustainable brand? And probably a lot of our listeners are in the same place, where they've got a good business and they've built a sustainable brand. But then when you start to scale it, what's the hardest part of keeping control of the supply chain, and particularly in fashion, where you can have long and international supply chains?
Yeah, sustainable is an interesting word that's been around for a while, and it's kind of probably, in my opinion, getting overused now. So that you could argue there's no such thing as a sustainable business, because you're causing damage. We always say we have effect on the planet. It's about how can we mitigate that. How can we move to be a positive impact business? That's kind of the I suppose the holy grail which we could move towards. How can you exist and have a positive impact on the planet? Use waste, use fabrics, recycle, repurpose, and so that's I suppose that's the first thing to say. And supply chains are complex. You're totally right; they really are complicated, and We are a global brand that has a global supply chain with factories all around the world, and we know and have good long-standing relationships with the factories. And I think the way I look at supply chain is that every point on it, there's a value add. Every point, there should be a fair, compensation for that value add, and then you get to the price, which is hopefully, then we get that price, and we're trying to make sure it's a fair price to the customer. But that's the price it is, and that's going to be, say, 90 quid for a bit of knitwear, which we feel is a really fair price for everything that's gone into that very complicated long supply chain. It's not for me to judge how people spend their money as a founder, as a brand. But if you have a bit of knitwear that costs 12 quid, ask yourself the same question, and do you feel that price a fair reflection of a very complicated supply chain? So again, it's up to customers to, obviously within their means, think about these kind of questions.
And do you think customers are becoming more educated around this, or is it sort of still a small percentage who are buying products for life that can be repaired? I mean, interestingly, I was in a jean shop in Soho last week, Nudie Jeans, and they actually have someone sitting in the shop repairing jeans, and you can get your jeans repaired for life. Have we seen more of that?
Yeah, we are. We've had repairs here for 15 years in Wilkitty and Snagness. We've got repairs. We've got probably a third of the shop across the road is for repairs now. There's a constant row of jackets being fixed, and so we've had that sort of way of working with our customers and designing for a while. We have a store in Bristol as well. And so, it's definitely people are understanding. I think that people need to repair products, extend their life. Don't need to always buy new as well. We're seeing that with the resale platforms and stuff like that. So, I suppose to answer your question, there is in my opinion, a bit of a rising tide line on the sort of type of consumption that we should be moving towards as customers, and basically consuming less.
Are you looking at new models like renting clothing for life rather than actually selling?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe I can't say too much now, but we've got a few exciting ideas coming. Yeah.
Perfect. And with repair, what are the main barriers there? Is it a cultural issue of sort of getting people to understand that they can repair things? Is it designing garments that can be repaired? I mean, you've heard these stories of it's impossible to replace a zip because it's sort of fitted from the inside out. What are the main barriers to sort of getting more repair out there?
I guess it might be a convenience thing. I've got a jacket and I've got to send it back and send it in, and I've got to wait 3 weeks for it to come back. And there's that sort of mentality. So do you know what? I'll just buy another one. So there is a bit of that. I'm just sort of intuitively sort of suggesting that. So that's possibly could be one barrier. I mean, our stuff is all sort of our wetsuits were specifically built in a way that you could repair them very easily. So they're built really, really well and built to last, which they do. But if after 2 or 3 seasons you need it fixed, we built it so that the tapes could be taken off and new tape put on, that sort of thing. So there are examples in the range where we're really thinking about how you can incorporate the repairability of the product into its initial design.
From your sort of learnings of doing Finisterre for 20 years, do you think we can fix the fashion sector? It's got this very linear process and responsible for a huge chunk of climate emissions.
I mean, I don't know. It's we're just doing what we're doing and have done for 20 years. We believe in the power of change and the power of committed people and brands to drive change. That's always what has made these changes. So that kind of gets us out of bed in the morning. And that has done for 20 years and will do for the next 20 years or however long, whatever. That belief that we can do that, you have that, but also you have the knowledge that, there are some huge businesses and operations in the fashion sector that, we're not going to be able to nudge along. But then again, like we did a collaboration with Vans Footwear a few years ago, and they brought their, expertise in footwear design. We brought expertise in fabrics and supply chain, that sort of thing, to the table, and we end up making their most, in quote marks, sustainable shoe they've ever made. And that's now part. So the fact is, there's still, you've got to kind of back yourself and believe yourselves that you can do these things. And a huge business like Vans does that. And so there are some examples of bigger brands doing stuff. So it's change is happening, but it's you have to just keep beating on the door.
Yeah, and just keep pushing with the expertise, which sounds super fascinating. And are your customers who buy stuff are campaigners, but they're also investors in your business? Because I think you crowdfunded. Are they a challenging bunch, the customers, or are they always super supportive of what you're doing? Do you have a forum for them?
We have crowdsourced designer product, like our first wetsuits we crowdsourced, to get very complicated product to make. So we wanted their feedback. So we had a wetsuit tester program, 7 or 8 years ago now, and that was really successful, building product for our community, which I really enjoyed doing. We constantly get feedback from product, which I always love, and one of my highlights is always seeing people in our product. Originally it's your mom and your sister or whatever, but then it's your neighbour, and suddenly it's people you don't know. And when they've had a good experience with the product, it's amazing. And equally, I'm always interested to hear, how can we get better? And we're lucky that relationship we have with our customers is a really open and transparent and productive one. And it helps us get better. So I'm really appreciative of that and really value it. And then equally with the crowd raises we ran, they were both times when our community really got behind us with their belief, I suppose, in what we could go on and will go on to achieve as a brand. So a really great validation for me personally and the wider business in what we're doing.
And are you now getting a lot more? You mentioned you've got 10 stores in the UK. Are they a really key touch point for people to give you feedback in terms of the product and how the Finisterre brand's going down?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, of course. That people can walk in, they can see the product, touch the product, they can, try on wetsuits. They can, let staff know what's going on there. They're really, they're essential parts of our business. There's 10 stores all around the country, and they're always, there was places to bring to life the product. We do a lot of events there as well, so you can go and listen to films or watch films, rather, listen to talks, talk about products. So they're kind of the real kind of the melting pot, I suppose, of that interaction with the customer.
And are the customers quite focused on the sort of outside of the garment, the impact of the store, the impact of the e-commerce operation, the impact of the packaging? Is that a concern as well? Are you focusing on that, or is the tension more on the product?
I don't often get asked what's the impact of e-commerce by our customers. No, to be fair, but the packaging is a great one. We're D2C business, send a lot of product out, mail order. That's a big impact. How can we reduce that, mitigate that? So our impact, we've worked now with, it's called Leave No Trace, and it's biodegradable in a marine environment, and you can put it in boiling water, it sort of dissolves. So it's we work with Leave No Trace now for 3 or 4 years. So there's elements that we that for what I suppose outside just the product, the impact of the business and how we can it's everywhere. We're constantly trying to, but we're never. It's hard to do, and we're never. You never actually kind of get there. You're always trying to improve and get better and grow and evolve and that sort of thing. And that's very much the mindset in here.
There's always something on the list.
Yeah.
There's always something more to do. What's your best-selling item? Have you had something? Is it something early days? It's always been the best-selling item, or does it move from year to year?
Our merino underwear was really popular. People would buy 1 or 2 pieces, and then would just wear. They'd replace the whole boxer short underwear range with merino underwear, and that's beautifully soft next to the skin. Lovely product. Our knitwear has always done really well for us. Our jackets and our wetsuits are also really good.
On this show, we're building a Hall of Fame for climate heroes, and we always ask our wonderful guests to leave something in First Mile's Climate Heroes Hall of Fame. So, what or who would it be?
I did actually have a person, but I think I probably put a thought in this thing, as that's what the question is. And I think I often sort of reference this in here. It's never underestimate the power of a committed bunch of people to really drive change.
Brilliant. I like it. It's going to get nice and busy in our Hall of Fame. And if you could have, I'm hedging my bets on the leadership of the UK here. So if you could have a one-to-one with Rishi Sunak or Sir Keir Starmer, what would be the key message you'd land on them?
It'd be, be leave the seas alone. Don't get any more licensed offshore drilling. Ban bottom trawling and enforce, MPAs properly, so that, because there's areas where the sea has been left alone, and in a few years, quicker than the land, it's the ability for it to kind of rehabilitate is phenomenal, and then it can really start playing the role that it should do in our lives.
Leave the seas to bounce back.
Yeah, so really, really can play an important part. We really need the seas to be healthy.
So what's coming up, Tom, that you're getting most excited about that you can share with us?
I think the things we touched on C7 a bit. That's what's very close to my heart, because it's wider it's bigger than just a business, and it really is the brand sort of driving change and bringing voice and talking about activism, that sort of thing. So that's always really exciting. We have the Finisterre Foundation, which is something again I'm really close to. We set it up about 18 months ago now, and the idea was that as a business, as individuals, we're very lucky we can get in the sea whenever we can, and that's kind of what we, that connection we try to bring to life in the product, in the brand, the product enabler of that connection. But we're also equally aware that that isn't the case for many people. So there's many barriers for people to get into the sea. So we set the foundation up with the explicit aim of enabling equal access to the ocean for all, and so that's sort of CIC. It's sort of the charitable part of the business, and we funded it we didn't do Black Friday, which your listeners may is this kind of crazy end of November like mass consumerist event that goes on around the world. So they didn't do that last couple of years, and but instead we donated money for orders we got to the foundation, and we used. So what I'm excited about is the way that the business can start to fund the foundation. And with that money, we ran a wetsuit project where one of the biggest barriers of entry to the sea is actually wearing a wetsuit. If you've got sensory issues, or you find it difficult to get a wetsuit, we had an amazing guy who had cerebral palsy, and he found it really hard to get into a wetsuit. So, and that's kind of where it sparked from. We adapted the wetsuit for him. So the wetsuit project, through the foundation, you could apply to have your wetsuits adapted. We've got these letters in people whose children have difficulty getting into wetsuits, and so you could put a zip in a different place or whatever. So it's kind of really powerful stuff. And I suppose I've always got people to see personally, and now we do that for business. So the ability of then using the business to do that to people whose that amazing thing isn't accessible to them for whatever reason, there's a barrier to that. Using the foundation to break down that barrier is something that I love. That, really excited about that.
Yeah, no, that does sound incredible, of getting more people in the sea. And you seem to wear many different hats. You're clearly very busy with a huge amount going on. What does success look like for you? Do you define success? How does it look for you?
Yeah, I often get asked that question, and it's it's been 20 years. So listen, there's been a lot of tough times in that period, like when you had to really dig in, had to have real resilience, both as myself and our wider teams, and nearly hasn't happened many times, to be fair. But along that journey, there's really amazing high points that you have, and they're not like, you can't pin them back and say, that was our successful time. They're little wins. They could be every day or every quarter, whatever it is. That you have that are little things that prove you're going in the right direction. It's the B Corp, it's Foundation, it's C7, it's ULEX, it's better products, it's an amazing customer review. As I said earlier, I always love seeing our product out and about and talking to customers and finding out, and that for me, I suppose, is a really that for me is sort of success, and seeing that more and more is something that always excites me.
Brilliant. I love it. It's sort of the continuum. This might be related to the sea, but it might be sort of looking inland as well. Are there other climate initiatives that you're getting excited about in the future, or may even be getting involved in?
Yeah, we touched on one earlier, which is probably around offshore drilling and bottom trawling. I can't say too much about that now because it's still just finalising it all. But it's really in our backyard around our coastline over here. Drawing attention to things that we think shouldn't be happening if the sea needs to recover and heal.
Because I think Dogger Bank has been turned into a no-fish zone. I don't know whether that's happened or not to protect it? Because the problem with...
Yeah, I mean, there's actually quite a lot of marine protected areas around the country, but the kind of policing of them, I suppose, is that, you can set one up, but then actually if it's, not policed or enforced, it's not much point in having it.
Tom, great. How do our listeners find out about Finisterre or C7?
Finisterre.com as a website. Instagram is at Finisterre. That's Finesterre. Or drop it to any one of our 10 stores around the country and speak to people. And there's loads of digital stuff going on with content, stories. Have a broadcast which goes out every other weekend, and there's got amazing sort of stories that kind of many things we've discussed.
Brilliant. Tom, it's been amazing having you on this episode of First Miles Climate Heroes. Thanks so much for joining us and coming along.
No worries. Thanks, Bruce.
I'm Bruce Bratley, and you've been listening to First Miles Climate Heroes, where we meet incredible people making an impact to tackle climate change. If you've enjoyed this episode, leave us a review and subscribe to the show. We have brand new episodes every Wednesday.